Oh, to you, the ladies, the gentlemen, the fellas. Hey. Let me be the first today to wish you a happy National Awkward Moments Day. Happy National Sloppy Joe Day. There's a bunch of stuff going on today, but it might be going down. It might be going down as National Sal Survived the Tornado Day. Yes, there is decently high risk for a tornado in my area today. 70 to 90 mile per hour winds are likely. So hopefully we could do the live stream later today, but I might have to be sitting in the center of my bathtub and with a mattress over my head protecting myself today. So if we're doing the live stream, you might just be seeing me doing that, answering questions or asking you the questions on how to get through this thing. So, we seem to be having a crazier day later today. It's supposed to be starting like when the live streams usually happen. So, uncertain. I'll update via Twitter. Uncertain if we'll be doing a live stream later today. But my goal is for that to be happening, as always, at 4:30 p.m. East Coast time. I will be updating on Twitter as long as I have power, right? If I have power, then we'll be doing it. But I guess not my greatest fear by any means. But we end up getting a rock thrown through the window, just misses my head, and we go, yeah, I gotta go, guys. So hopefully that doesn't happen. Hopefully it just ends up missing us, and we can have a nice little time today. But yeah, we're going to get into the injury news. Like, subscribe, do those things. That notification bell is the big one, so you're notified of when we're going live and dropping content. An MMA video will be out later this afternoon around noon. NASCAR tomorrow, so we got you covered for those weekend events. And oh, baby. Yes, a nice 6-game slate. We got that big 10-game slate. And the Discord was eaten. Ian in the Discord ended up winning $2,500 on DraftKings yesterday. Some people having near binks of $100,000. We had a lot of people cashing out with some of the props that we talked about on Prize Picks. Keen winning like $700 on 3 props, $500 on just one of them, on those Harden, those Joe Harris, and those Rui props that we talked about in the live stream yesterday. It's been a very good time, but we'll get into all that a little bit later on in terms of the Prize Pick stuff. But right now, let me get you all squared away on the injury news, which is going to be right now Mike Conley out. And we kind of know at this point, automatic now for the last year and a half. When Mike Conley misses, yes, Donovan Mitchell gets a bump. He's kind of already priced for it, though, at $8,700. But the Jordan Clarkson show starts to come into play when he gets more minutes. He averages over a fantasy point per minute, right? The Joe Ingles show starts to come into play as his assist percentage rises into the 20s and the mid-20s. Clint Capella is still dealing with a lower body heel injury, so it's a foot injury. This is going to be massive. It takes a little bit of time for big men for that to come back. So track John Collins, who's now $7,200. They're also having their backup Onyeka, I believe it is the first name. He also has been missing time lately, so Collins would just have to be locked into a lot of big minutes at the 5. For the Magic today, a lot of guys are questionable. It's all their guys. Aaron Gordon, who I would assume comes back maybe on a minutes limit since he was before that. Evan Fournier and Terrence Ross all questionable. I'm currently, for the purposes of this breakdown, projecting them all to play today. Derrick Rose is out for New York. Alfred Payton is doubtful. That's kind of what we've been getting lately. But now even Emmanuel Quickley is questionable. So all those guards are having problems. Maybe it could be the Alec Burks show today below $5,000. For the Thunder, Al Horford is back. So our Moses Brown's 50 burgers have to get put on halt for right now. Darius Bazley will be out again. Lou Dort and Theo Maledon are questionable. And Cam Johnson is currently out for Phoenix. There's some other news on Minnesota, like Jared Culver and Jordan McLaughlin are out and doubtful, but we don't really care too much about that. But for our number 12 play on the day, to start this puppy off for you, Gordon Hayward, whose price drops $100. He's $7,300 right now. So Gordon Hayward in that last game was in a blowout, and now we can actually transition here. We have James Harden still on the screen below me right now. We ended up having him on the live stream. This is just some new scenes we're adding to the YouTube version, but we can see that he was in a blowout in this last game. They lost by 25, and that's even with them going on a 10-0 run and an 8-0 run in the fourth quarter. So it was even bigger of a difference than that as they entered that fourth quarter trailing by about 30 points. But if we zoom in right here, you can actually see what happens with the starters. The starters in Gordon Hayward, this darker blue is when they were actually on the court, and the green is when they were off the court. So Gordon Hayward, there's nothing to worry about here. 9 minutes in the first quarter, and then he ends up playing 8 minutes and a half in the second quarter. So he was on pace to play about 34 minutes if this game stays close. But then as we zoom out, you can see all the green right here for the starters. They did not play in the fourth quarter. Hayward checks out a couple minutes left in the third quarter. He only ends up playing 26 minutes. He was likely to play around 35 minutes, which is actually significant because that's bigger minutes than he's been playing as of late. So Hayward today, he's averaging about 35 minutes on the season, but lately he's only been playing like 32, 33. If we can give him 35, 36 minutes today against LA, if this game can somehow stay close, project him for about 1.05 fantasy points per minute. I like this for Gordon Hayward, and I do think he's going to be a low-owned option for you, even on a 6-game slate. I think if anything, people are going to be targeting some other 7K options today, especially $7,200 John Collins if Clint Capella was to miss. There's nothing wrong with playing John Collins in that situation, but Hayward at $7,300 becomes a nice low-owned option for you with a lot of upside. Our number 11 play today is going to be Mr. Alec Burks from the New York Knicks. And Alec Burks is somebody that I really do like, and I've continued to like for quite a while. We can pull up Add More Funds right now. This is a free tool if you want to check it out down below in the description. It just kind of shows us what happens when we take guys on or off the court. So I took off Alfred Payton and I took off Derrick Rose. But Emmanuel Quickley is also questionable. So this is assuming that Emmanuel Quickley is in. I like Alec Burks to play mid to upper 20s in minutes today and actually produce. If Emmanuel Quickley is out, well, then you start to lock in Alec Burks Burks for 30 minutes. You start to lock in Alec Burks for close to 30-plus fantasy points, and he only moves up this board today, right? Quickly is officially questionable today. So with both Alfred Payton, who is doubtful, and Derrick Rose, who is out today, off the court this season, you're seeing Alec Burks so far average 0.93 fantasy points per minute. That's a nice number for a guy below $5,000. Even if he just has his average at 0.93. He shoots his average about 40% from 3 this year. You see this 23%, 22.9 to be exact, percent right now. Usage rate, those are all nice things to see. If anything, the assist percentage probably continues to rise from 14%. If he plays 25 minutes, averages about 0.93 fantasy points per minute, he's going to get you there. And that's if he's just performing average today. Obvious upside if Emmanuel quickly is out. So now we get into the top 10, and we'll start it off with Mr. Joe Ingles at 5,200 today. So before we get into this, let's talk about Prize Picks, the sponsor of the program today. I cannot be more excited for what's happening with Prize Picks. The reason why I wanted to partner up with Prize Picks was because they have a lot of more. So what it is, it's a player prop site, over-unders. They have single stats like points, rebounds, assists, but also, and this is a big one, they offer the most sports ones, so you get a nice variety. But the biggest one is they have a lot of options at fantasy points, over-unders. And I myself project fantasy points, so for myself, I knew that I probably have an edge looking at this stuff really closely and more so than the computer or whoever the other person is that they have doing these odds, which then helps out our community here on YouTube, and then obviously the patrons who have access to that. So right now in the mornings, they usually start off with about 8 props, right? You're getting 8 props, but then in the afternoon, it gets to, on this type of a slate, maybe a little bit less, 30 props. On the bigger slates like yesterday, you're getting to choose between like 35, 40 props, and it's nice. You always usually find some diamonds in the rough there, especially if injury news starts to come out. Like yesterday, Kyrie Irving ended up getting ruled out. James Harden's player props, his over-unders, was at 62 fantasy points. He obviously scores 83, so now it looks really dumb, but I had him projected for 69, a clear over. I had Rui Hachimura for 26 and change, a clear over his 23, and we ended up having some guys in the Discord take advantage of that. I'm sure even more people who didn't reach out, winning $500, $700 last night on Prize Picks for some of these props that just like clear and obvious overs based on my projections. There's a link in the description below. You click that, then you use the promo code SAL when you sign up. They'll actually give you a benefit. So I get a benefit from using that code. It says, oh, Sal sent them over here. Let's continue to partner with him. But you get a really nice benefit of a money bonus up to $100. You put in $20, bam, you match 20. You put in 50, bam, you match 50. Now you have 100 instantly. You get it right away. Dollar which gets smacked into your bank account all the way up to $100. I am currently looking at the over 42 fantasy points for SGA. I have him slightly projected for over than that. He's $9,000 on DraftKings. He gets a nice matchup against Atlanta today. And then I'll go to the guy right next to him in Bradley Beal, and I'll actually take the under on 46 fantasy points for Bradley Beal today. I don't think Bradley Beal is a bad play on DraftKings at $9,100, but the 46 fantasy points round against Utah today, yes, no Mike Conley, but you're still going to have guys like Bojan out there. You're still going to have guys like Joe Ingles. I'll take the under 46 points right now on Bradley Beal early in the day. So the over SGA, we can pair those together right here for a flex play. You get 2 times your money, or if you want to put all 3 together, a power play, it's called, you get 3 times your money. SGA over 42 points early in the day. Bradley Beal under 46. That is Bradley Beal under 46 early in the day. Those are the 2 that I'll be taking on Prize Picks. But again, check back in later today, because as we get injury news, as we finalize the projections, and as we get more props on Prize Picks, that's when it becomes even more of an advantage right now. So these are where we're going early on in the morning. I'm going to be placing that one for our early morning crowd, but be sure to check that out. Use the code SAL, link down below. You can tail this one if you want. You can take advantage of all of that. Our number 10 play, Joe Ingles. The big thing for Joe Ingles is his assist percentage. So we're back on add more funds right now, and you can see I have Joe Ingles highlighted. If you scroll over, Ingles shoots 67%, which is just nuts. 48% from 3 with Mike Conley off the court, and a decent sample of 536 minutes. So you're going to get more 3 attempts, obviously more minutes. He averages 0.93 fantasy points per minute, which is also good now that he's at a cheap price point. But here's the big one. You know that I always like the outs to people's games. Are you just a shooter? I don't really like you if you're just a shooter and you're not dirt cheap. And even then, you're not reliable for me. 23.3% assist percentage with no Mike Conley on the court. That rises. He gets more ball handling responsibilities. So you're going to be getting more potential assists. You're going to be getting more potential shots and more potential minutes, right? So I know the minutes are probably going to be there. If the shots fall, we still have the assists. If the assists fall, we still have the shots. I always like somebody who has backup plans to their game. So Ingles without Conley having that 23.5% assist percentage makes him a top 10 play for us. Our number 9 play is Anthony Edwards. Anthony Edwards continues to shoot over 20 times, right? Continues to have 20 plus shots in a game, continues to play 35 minutes each game, and people continue not to want to own Anthony Edwards because his price point, the sticker shock now on him, has him in the $7,000 range, even though he's still small forward shooting guard eligible. Here's the thing. If Anthony Edwards was only point guard eligible, or only power forward eligible, or only center eligible, I probably wouldn't have as much interest in him, right? He might make this list, but he might be like my 15th or 16th option. The fact that positional scarcity at shooting guard and small forward is nowhere near to what this is right now for Anthony Edwards. Most shooting guards and small forwards are not playing 37 minutes a night right now, recently, right? With all these guards out, Malik Beasley, Russell. They even have guys on their bench out right now. Most guys aren't playing just a locked in 35 plus minutes. Most guys aren't shooting 20 plus times. He shot, we'll take out the one game where he ended up getting 4 personal fouls, right? But he shot 22, 24, 22, 23, 22, 22, 20 times in each of those last games, taking out one game in there where he ended up getting in some foul trouble, right? He's playing massive minutes, 35, 37, 37, 38, 33, 37. Just absolutely nuts right now. And his price point actually reduces by $1. So this is what I have in my notes. Oh, 20 plus shot attempts in 35 plus minutes? Yeah, run it back. So we'll run that back right now in DraftKings, the 1.5x multiplier in SuperDraft. We can run it back there as well. He's our number 9 play in the day. A decent team total right now. Should be an average pace spot against Phoenix today. Our number 8 play is Rui Hachimura. And Rui Hachimura, the thing to be pointing out here on Rui is the minutes. The minutes are the biggest thing. You might be saying, Sal, why do we want to play Rui? We don't usually like to play guys from Washington. I'm the biggest advocate of not playing guys from Washington that aren't named Bradley Beal or Russell Westbrook. But that is now changing with Rui Hachimura and even another guy that potentially we'll talk about on this list, a cheaper option. But last year we saw a time when Rui Hachimura, due to injuries and things like that, he started to play like 36, 37, 38 minutes a game. And he started to obviously get you there fantasy points wise. And at one point, Rui Hachimura was like $7,000 last year because he kept scoring 35 and 40 fantasy points. Well, now this year he has also Russell Westbrook on his team, so it's harder for him to get that higher rebounding rate, but the minutes are there, right? And the price point is not coming up quick enough. 3 games ago, he was 5,200. Now he's only 5,600. His price point's actually come down from 59 and 5,800. But the minutes are remaining. He's played 38, 37, and 38 minutes over the last 3 games. Now, most of these games have stayed close. A game they ended up losing by about a dozen points to Milwaukee is in there as well. So it's nice to see that he's not just getting blowout run. He's actually playing massive minutes. So Rui Hachimura, although his fantasy point per minute metrics, playing alongside Bradley Beal and Russell Westbrook for most, if not all of his minutes, are not going to be great. You're going to get like 0.8 fantasy points per minute. Now that he's playing, instead of playing 28 to 30 minutes, he's playing 37, 38 minutes. That's very impressive. So if you project him for 30 minutes today, he won't look good. 32, he won't look good. But if you start to give him 34, 35, 36, he's going to start to look better, especially if he gets to 38 he's been seeing as of late. It's all a minutes game at that point. Rui Hachimura, even if he doesn't play well, I mean, just multiply 38 by 0.8, his fantasy points per minute. There's more that goes into it than just that. But if you want to multiply those minutes by his fantasy points per minute, you're going to get him to score about 30 and a half fantasy points. Obviously, there's the matchup and there's a lot of other things that go into that we'll take into account as well. But that's where he starts to look a little bit better now as his price point is actually reducing. Going to our number 7 play in the day today, we'll go to Mr. Alex Len. And Alex Len is another guy from this team from Washington. I mean, we're trying to find value on a 6-game slate. There's not a lot of it out there right now. $3,400 Alex Len is one of those pieces of value. Alex Len, I think, probably locks in. I mean, he continues to be starting at center right now, but especially in a matchup against Rudy Gobert, who's been playing, I mean, as good of basketball as we've seen out of Rudy Gobert right now on both ends of the court, as consistent of a player as they come. Mo Wagner's not going to be able to deal with that, in my opinion. I don't think Robin Lopez will be able to deal with that. I think you're going to see Alex Len get the run. 33, 18, and 24 minutes over the last 3 games for Alex Len. He started all of those games, and he's been productive. 22 and a half, then he gets an 8.5 burger where he only shoots 4 times in the game, doesn't get any rebounds in 18 minutes of play in that one against Milwaukee, and then he ends up going, also though, Milwaukee has Brook Lopez, right? They have Bobby Portis. They have these guys who are not traditional centers. They can move around the court. During that game, we told you, don't fall for Alex Len. He's going to be probably not on the court as much. You're going to get Robin Lopez out there and also Mo Wagner a little bit more, or maybe even they go small ball with Rui at the 5. And that's what we ended up seeing happening. In this game, though, very similar to the game yesterday against Sacramento, Rashawn Holmes is a standard in the paint center. Hassan Whiteside came back on the minutes limit, standard in the paint center. Rudy Gobert, standard in the paint center. I think we get Alex Len pretty locked in for, as long as he stays out of foul trouble, that mid-20s range in minutes. And this is a guy who's been playing well in the season, averaging around a fantasy point per minute. We're now to the number 6 play of the day, and it's going to be Montrez Harold. And we can actually take a look right now on NBA Wowie what ends up happening with Montrez Harold when there's no Anthony Davis on the court this year. So Montrez Harold has played the second most minutes with no Anthony Davis, only behind LeBron, about over 700 minutes so far this year. He's shooting close to the basket. We know that 63% effective field goal rate, a nice 23% usage, but here's the big thing. He averages 1.11 fantasy points per minute, and the minutes have been coming up for Montrez Harold as of late. He's only center eligible, which kind of takes some things away from what you can do with your lineup, especially if you want to play an Alex Len or somebody else on the slate, a Nikola Vucevic up top, some of the other guys potentially that we'll talk about, but the minutes have become more stable, right? 33, 32, 25, 29, and the minutes are going to become less stable in games where he's not as much of, or he's just more of a liability defensively. Today against Charlotte, I don't think that's going to be the case. I don't think matchups against PJ Washington, Cody Zeller, Bismack Biyombo are going to be a situation where they take Montrez Harold off the court because of his defense, because he's getting overpowered by one of those guys. No, I don't think that's the case at all. We actually got to see Montrez Harold play 32 minutes against a guy like Domantas Sabonis and play 29 minutes against a guy in a bigger team like Karl-Anthony Towns. That's encouraging for him to stay on the court more. They also just really don't have any other options. Like Damian Jones at this point is a foul trouble machine, and he's way, way worse than Montrez Harold, and that's saying something on the defensive side. So Mr. Montrez Harold today is going to be our top 6 play in the day at $6,400. Probably give him somewhere in that 28 to 30 minute range. Project him out for over a fantasy point per minute, and you're going to start to look nice. He's going to start to project project out in the low 30s, which is right around where he has just kind of been lately. But the upside, taking into account of what this guy can do from a double-double and even a blocks and steals standpoint, kind of puts him his ceiling clearly into the 40s and 50s. He's going to be right now for us a top 6 play. So as we get into the top 5 now, number 5 play Karl-Anthony Towns, but I'll let you know about the tools. So we have tools. We have right. We have projections, rankings. That sound like what is those? The fucking dolphin, right? People right now in their headphones, if they're only listening in there, is gonna be like, what the fuck is this guy? These guys pet dolphin in his room? He petting the dolphin? No, today's not National Dolphins Day. It's National Sloppy Joe Day. So there you go. If you survived your corned beef and cabbage and you survived all the brewskis you drank yesterday on St. Patty's Day, go have yourself a Sloppy Joe today. What better way to feel better and in shape about yourself after drinking, pounding 10 Guinnesses yesterday, after eating a bunch of corned beef and cabbage, which is good motherfucking food, and probably actually, depending on the oil you're cooking it, healthy. But regardless, what better way than eating a big old flat Sloppy Joe today? How about that? But yeah, we do offer tools, projections, ranks. What a perfect transition there. And also an optimizer. The Big Energy Optimizer has been absolutely crushing it. My man won $2,500 in the Discord yesterday. This is the Big Energy Optimizer. These are some of the lineups it gave us yesterday. The Big Energy Optimizer, I mean, the top lineup gave us Jordan Poole yesterday, which is pretty interesting. Obviously, Zubac looked great once we ended up seeing no Serge Ibaka out there. But here's the other thing. I just want to let people know about the Optimizer. So you can check it out. It's linked down below. You get this included in some of the packages, industry low prices for the bundle and the value you get. But we just added yesterday randomness. So we've had randomness, general randomness. You can always add when you're making a crunch. You can put how much randomness you want on. Now you can put in randomness per player if you wanted to change it per player. So the higher projected players normally get a lower randomness. So a little tip for you: the lower projected players usually get a little bit more randomness, so you can take into account a higher range of outcomes in their projection. So you can now edit that. You could always edit the projections as well in here. So lots of things that you can do in here. We have some videos as well on kind of the tutorials of this stuff. You can always go in, make a new build, and that's where your general randomness will live. So be sure to check it out. Yesterday was giving us a lot of nice lineups. We liked Larry Nance. We liked DeLon Wright. We ended up getting a lot of those types of players. So Karl-Anthony Towns is an interesting case study as our number 5 play today. With D'Angelo Russell and Malik Beasley off the court, he's only averaging 1.32 fantasy points a minute. I mean, I would expect Towns to be in the 1.4 to 1.5 range. So I do think that this is clearly him not playing well. And he's not. He's averaging a 52.5% effective field goal rate. Playing closer to the basket, we expect Towns to get that closer to a 60% rate. He's only having an 18% assist percentage for a guy who's normally in the 20% assist percentage range. So this is just what it is, right? This is just Karl-Anthony Towns, I'm sure, off the court, dealing with a lot when it comes to COVID and losing loved ones from COVID, himself getting it. I mean, mentally, this has been a tough year for Karl-Anthony Towns. I expect Karl-Anthony Towns to be a better player than this, no doubt about it. And now he's priced as if he's this bad version of Karl-Anthony Towns. Now, maybe he just has a down and a lower year after COVID happens. Maybe this is just one of the worst years of his career. Could be, but if we're betting against that based on the years of Karl-Anthony Towns being better than this that we've seen, we're getting him at a very low price here in a lovely matchup against DeAndre Ayton as our number 5 play on the day. Now we'll get inside the top 5 to number 4, LeBron James. It's as simple as this. I mean, the price point's coming up to $10,700. That's why he's no longer $10,100, $10,200. That's why he's not higher here. But a number 4 play, there's really not that many pay-up options. Yes, you have Lillard, but he's $11,000. I know he had a great game last time out with McCollum back. But the more that McCollum is back, the more that you're going to be seeing Lillard take a back seat. Yes, you have Russell Westbrook, right? Maybe he's going to be in this video. You have Vooch, but a lot of guys are potentially coming back. Randall, probably deservingly so as of late. 4 of his last 5 games, 50-plus points. 3 out of those 5 games, 60-plus DraftKings points. He's up there now at $10,000. You have a lot of options, right, in terms of these pay-ups. You have Trae Young at $10,000 flat, but a lot of them not as consistent as LeBron James. And why is that? Well, the reason being is because LeBron James actually goes out there and averages a bunch of fantasy points from an assist standpoint. He's like Russell Westbrook, right? The consistency comes from the assists, obviously the shot attempts, and the rebounds, the triple-double upside. When those guys are going to be there, they're going to be more consistent for you. It's not like a Julius Randle who, yes, his assist percentage has been higher this year, but he needs to get you those rebounds and those double-double upsides, right? Trae Young, who needs to be hitting his shots, right? Damian Lillard as well, who needs to be hitting his shots. He doesn't have the outs with the rebounds. And yes, he can get some assists as well, but not as consistent as a Westbrook or a LeBron James. When LeBron's assist percentage is damn near 50% with no Anthony Davis out there, you obviously have a lot of upside. When he's taking a bunch of shots, when he's taking 20-plus shots a game, and his rebounding rate is in the 20s, you obviously have a lot of outs. So $10,000, 700 LeBron James, not as appealing at 1.05x multiplier in Superdraft, but that 36 minutes of play today against Charlotte, going to look very, very nice here. The team total at 117 also gives him a slight bump. And look at that, the number 3 play in the day, the other pay-up option that I like in Russell Westbrook because of the consistency. Oh, another triple-double yesterday for Westbrook. Just keep an eye on if he plays today. They have been doing this thing on back-to-backs where maybe Westbrook or Beal will rest. And then obviously if Westbrook's out, Bradley Beal jumps to probably being the top play today. With his price point being down to $9,100, he's not on this top 12 list, but he's pretty damn close at that cheap price point. Look, he's consistent as ever, and Westbrook's price doesn't change. You're going to be getting a 45% assist percentage. Over 1.4 fantasy points per minute per game actually pushes down Beal to being like a 1.25 producer next to him. It makes Beal look like a much worse player when Russell Westbrook, from a fantasy perspective, is out there and, as always, hogging the ball, getting his rebounds, taking those away from his centers, picking up his shots and his assist percentage. So Russell Westbrook right now, as long as he continues to play, 36 plus minutes a game, continues to average 1.4 fantasy points a minute, and he has all of those outs to his game that we just talked about with LeBron, the assists, the shot attempts, the rebounds. Yes, he's going to be a top play for us. The reason he's higher than LeBron right now is just he's $500 cheaper. Number 2 play in the day is Jordan Clarkson, and we can transition over to let you know when Mike Conley is out what Jordan Clarkson does for this team right here. So Jordan Clarkson, according to Add More Funds, plays the 4th most minutes with Mike Conley off the court this year. He shoots fine, 56.3% overall, 36.5% from 3. He averages 1.06 fantasy points a minute. That's very good to see. The assist percentage is fine at 14%, but the biggest thing here, right? He ends up getting you there in a couple different ways. 13% rebounding rate, so he's just averaging all the different spots, but the shot attempts rise for Jordan Clarkson, who's a good 3-point shooter, right? So the shot attempts are going to rise for Jordan Clarkson. The other thing, though, is the minutes. Instead of Jordan Clarkson playing 24 minutes, he's now likely going to be playing 30 to 32 plus minutes in this game. So when that starts to happen, and yes, he's not dirt cheap at $5,500, but when that starts to happen at $6,100, it takes into account Jordan Clarkson's ceiling. So if you're just looking at overall fantasy point per minute projections today, Jordan Clarkson won't be my number 2 guy. The reason he's my number 2 guy on this sheet right here is because of his overall ceiling in a matchup against Washington today. The team total is not yet out, but that's also going to bump him, right? So fantasy points per minute, maybe some 3,000 guys are ranked ahead of him. Maybe Westbrook even gets ahead of him. But Clarkson at 6,100, if he goes out there and plays, let's just say 32 minutes today, there's a real upside for him to score 35 to 40 fantasy points, and he has even higher of a ceiling than that, which a lot of guys on this slate in general just really don't possess that type of ceiling that Clarkson does because he's a just motherfucking gunner out there. Now we can maybe see 5 to 10 more minutes out of him. And overall, numero uno today, the number 1 play of the day is John Collins. This is assuming that Clint Capella, a big man with a heel/foot injury, is out today. Those take a little while to come back from. If Clint Capella is in, he's only 7,600. John Collins is not this high. He's actually off this list. And Clint Capella, if he's going to be in with no minutes limit, we'll jump into our top 12. But John Collins right now averaging 1.22 fantasy points a minute and playing a bunch of center minutes. The other underrated thing to look at is I believe it is Onika. I apologize if I'm wrong. I'm so sorry if I'm wrong. I'm very sorry. I'm very, very sorry to the family out there. I believe that's the first name. I think he's their rookie backup center. He's been missing time as well. So they're just down centers. They have Bruno Fernando as a center, but they don't want to play him. They give him like 5 minutes a game. So John Collins, you would expect him to start at center. We love that. Pick up even more rebounding rate. Put him in your power forward spot at 7,200. Probably play 35, 36 minutes against Oklahoma City today and Al Horford and really no traditional center out there and average over 1.2 fantasy points per minute. You love to see that. You love to see a guy who's 7,200 starting to project out for 40 plus fantasy points. That would be our number 1 play today. A 1.25x multiplier in Superdraft will also look appealing as well. So thank you for tuning in today. Like, subscribe before you go. And I would encourage you to check out Prize Picks. Right now we have the over on or the under on Bradley Beal 46 fantasy points, the over on 42 for SGA, Shea Gilchrist Alexander. So be sure to check back in later today. Use that code SAL, link down below in the description. You'll get a free money match up to $100 bills, y'all. So collect that free dollarooskies. You can also check out the optimizer, the big energy optimizer, and all the other tools we have to offer down below. An MMA video will be out later today around noon. NASCAR video tomorrow for the weekend events in MMA. The weekend events in NASCAR will also continue to have some NBA content. And hit the notification bell. Like, subscribe as well. Hit the notification bell though, because I expect, or at least I plan to go live at 4:30 p.m. We'll see if my power is on. And if not, pray for me out there, fellas. Thank you so much for tuning in. Enjoy the rest of your day. Stay safe if you're involved in this tornado and all these high winds. And I'll see you all in the next one.